Welcome to It Starts With Courage podcast with Kat and Jen. What is it? It's everything. Everything you want in life starts with courage. I don't know about you, Jen, but I found myself sometimes, I don't make excuses often, but I catch myself when I make excuses. Recently, like, obviously, you know, I do Instagram stuff. I dibble and dabble. Is that dabble and dibble? Dabble and dibble? Dibble dabble. Whichever one it is.
I think it's both dibble dabble.
Dibble dabble. And Instagram, obviously, as social media does, sometimes things work, sometimes things don't. And I was actually speaking to somebody where when COVID started, I obviously started my live workouts. And I really wasn't producing as much organic content. And when I say organic content, I mean like just taking time out to film routines and just do, you know, stuff for people who don't want to sit and watch me for 50 minutes shouting at them at a screen. And, you know, my excuse, or it was that I just don't have time. I'm doing these hour-long workouts, which of course is a great excuse because hour-long workouts suck. But it has to be done. And I remember when I first started Instagram, I would wake up sort of, you know, by 4:30, make sure I'm at the gym, get my workout in, get that, like I would actually work out and then film my content. And I was just analyzing myself, my Instagram, and I was thinking, well, you know, it's amazing how sometimes you dream about things. And when you're on your way there, or once you've sort of reached where you thought you'd want it to be, you relax, you know, and you allow yourself to make excuses that, you know, allow you to be comfortable, stay comfortable where you're at. And just as I was reflecting more, I thought about a couple of conversations I've had with some people. Now, if you're out there and you hear this and you think, Catherine, you bitch. Today, I'm okay with it because I hope it's that conviction that you need that tells you that you, my friend, relative, whoever you may be, I don't know who this may touch, you can do better. I've had some conversations.
You can do better.
Today, I'm coming in hard.
You are coming in hard.
I'm coming in hard. Also because I just generally feel motivated this week. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and you're talking to them about something you've accomplished or something you're doing, and you can tell they're looking at you and thinking, why you, or how are you doing it? It's like some people get motivated and some people get jealous.
Wow. Boom.
I don't think these people have a reason to get jealous personally because I'm not doing anything special. I would like to think. I'm just working hard and not allowing excuses to get in the way. So today, that's really what I want to talk about. Making excuses, not allowing yourself to make excuses. This week is No Excuses Week. Why, friends? Because do you realize that you will recreate and perpetuate whatever narratives you tell yourself about your lives, right? Whatever it is that you think is right now is what you will perpetuate. And what you want it to be, again, is what you will work towards. No excuse will stop you from getting what you want to get. No one's going to wake you up and say, hey, do this. Hey, turn off the TV. Hey, you have to do these things for yourself. Don't allow yourself to say, oh, it's okay today. I'll just, you know, because it will take you down a different kind of a road. So that was me right there.
Yeah.
Jen, how do you feel about excuses?
Well, I think we all have them. We all make excuses at some point in our lives. And I think that I love the point you made of people either being motivated or jealous. I mean, just because your friend is having success, you should cheer that person on. Them having success is not going to make you not be successful.
Right.
Like, just because they have it doesn't mean you can't have it as well. So, I think the universe, kind of eavesdrops on your thoughts and your feelings. And if you're living in this jealousy and, judgmental zone, I just don't think you're going to get all the blessings that could be.
Right.
I think that Andy Frisella says it best. He calls it your bitch voice. Your excuses when you make an excuse and you're making that excuse oh, it's raining outside or it's too hot or it's too cold or I don't want to get up this early or whatever. I don't want to work that hard. I mean, that is your bitch voice. Yep. Are you going to listen to that? Or are you going to push through and do what you know you need to do to be successful? So,
and granted, I mean, life can be difficult. People go through some tough times, not discrediting that at all and not saying we don't go through tough times, but that is life.
And one of the things that I wanted to bring up about excuses is I feel like, I know this is true for me, maybe if we have one listener out there, they'll think the same thing for them. But what I think that we do or I do is the areas in life that we are finding success in, we push in those areas. So if you're finding success at work, you see a lot of people just throwing themselves working more and more and more because they're climbing the ladder, they're hitting goals or reaching goals and they feel confident in those areas and that's where they're winning, right?
Yeah.
I feel like for me, the areas that, I struggle with is where I make more excuses, right? Yeah. Our weaker areas is where we're making excuses. And so I think, do you find the same thing with you?
I definitely find the same thing. But what's quite interesting is I remember a time when I was at university and, in high school, I just always got things. I really never had to try too hard, to be honest. Things just, I passed. I was just one of those. And when I got to university, studying was something I just did well in. As you said, there are some areas that people just do well in, and those that you don't, you make excuses for. So I wasn't great at studying. So I always made an excuse not to study because to me, I just always got things. So I expected things are just going to be great. First semester of university came, or was it second semester? And I had this ISWC anatomy exam. And I did not study. I really didn't because I was just I get things, or I remember this from high school. Obviously, it was apparently very basic because I failed. I was really upset. And then I had to catch myself and say, but why are you upset? Because you made every excuse not to study. You really didn't try. And I think if you're able to recognize that you are making an excuse and recognize where you're going wrong, then you definitely can start to make that change and realize, okay, well, clearly I need to study differently. Clearly I need to do this differently. Just because it's worked in the past doesn't mean that you don't need to revamp it, change it up a bit to get a little bit further,
Yeah, 100%.
And with that, why do people make excuses? Why do we make excuses?
I think, fear is one of the things. I think people have a fear of failure where there's a quote out there, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change.
I told you those one-liners, Jen. It's almost like you just have this lottery in your head where it's okay, pick one. Oh, this is great.
Well, it's one that I've heard over and over and over again. And I think it hits you at different times in your life in a different way. But I think people, they make excuses because they're fear of failure. Yep. And I think you have to change the way that you look at fear. fear to me, like I've kind of changed the way I look at it. So to me, instead of like being scared to try something, like we were laughing before, I don't have an idea or go into something thinking like, oh, this isn't going to work. Like my thought process is like, we're going to crush this, or this is going to be amazing. Like it doesn't even come into my brain that what if it doesn't work? And so I think like when you're dealing with something, if you're looking to make a change or looking to do something and you're afraid of the failure, but failure is part of success. You have to fail in order to succeed. And you're not really like looking at it in like, what's the worst possible thing that can happen, right? Like, I'm trying to think of an example, but I think like sometimes people are changing jobs or, trying something new, and they're fearful that other people are going to look at them, or they're not going to look good in front of people that they look up to, and they're just unsure, and so they rather stay in that comfort zone. So I think for me, like I think some of the excuses that people make is just their fear of failing and the way that they're going to look in front of their peers. And I just feel like, and
I think like with that fear, also fear of the unknown, the less you know about something, the more scared you are. But I think if we can get ourselves to a place where if you educate yourself about whatever it is that you're afraid of, whether it's changing, I don't know, let's say moving to a different country or moving to a different state. I've done all the above. But sometimes the more you look and understand things, you take away some of that fear of that unknown. If you take the time and not make the excuses, take the time to educate yourself on whatever it is that you're afraid of trying or doing or eating. I think that's definitely another one, fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
I think another one is sometimes we're not sure what to expect. As you said, I guess you loosely said that. We're not sure what to expect when we have goals in mind, or better yet, we don't even know what our end goal is. That it makes it a lot more daunting to go for a new experience. It makes it easier to avoid something. Think about saving money. For example, if you say to yourself, hey, so I want to save some money this year, right? In a way, you allow yourself excuses because you don't have a timeline, you don't have any deadlines. But if you say something like, oh, hey, I want to save $1,000 in the next 2 months, you have a goal with set dates that you really, obviously you can make those excuses, but you have a goal, you have an objective that allows you not to make excuses.
Right. And we have to be able to, in that example of saving money by a certain amount of time, we have to be able to tell ourselves no, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to say, like, what goal is more important to you? Like saving $1,000 or, going on a girls trip with your friends that's going to cost you $300 or $400 or $500. Like you have to like put into perspective, and there's going to be some times you're going to have to tell yourself no.
Right.
So that comes, discipline is part of this, right? Like making excuses. It'd be easy like to get to the end of the month, not have the $1,000 and be like, well, like it was my girls trip and I hadn't been on a girls trip in forever, or I wanted this purse and I really, it was on sale and, I just had to have it. Like that delayed gratification, like we're so used to instant gratification that we have to be able to like pick a goal and then be able to tell ourselves no. In order to reach that goal.
I like that. There's something that you said today when we walked in and we're just talking. I can't remember who you said you heard it from, but it was bloom where you're planted.
Yes.
And where I want to take this is, like I find a common reason people make excuses is thinking they lack something. They lack resources. Oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have, this, that, and the other. But sometimes as that saying goes, are you willing to bloom where you're planted? Are you willing to start where you are with what you have? How can you turn what you have into, to help you reach that end goal? Are you willing to make that time? Are you willing to save that little bit of money? We don't lack resources. Sometimes we just want more. We want people to hand us things. We essentially want the universe to hand us things. We are not willing to use the resources we already have to make that end goal a reality. We're not blooming where we're planted.
Well, I got that from Ed Milet's podcast with Coach Dabo Sweeney for Clemson football coach. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about just wherever you are, make sure that you be the best at what you are, because we don't all have the role that we really want in our life at all times, right? We all have to start from somewhere, whether you're a graduate assistant, you're an assistant coach, you're a head coach, you're a boss, you're a CEO. We all didn't start at the tippy top. We start at the bottom. Yep. And so what he was talking about is, whatever you do, just be great at whatever you do.
Right.
And you never know, who's watching and what opportunities will come from you just having a great attitude about what you're doing and being great at what you do. And that's what he said, bloom where you're planted. Just have that attitude of I'm going to take in and learn everything that I can from the position I'm in right now. And eventually, I'll be able to move up. But a lot of people, like you said, they just want things handed to them. Mm-hmm. You want it to be easy.
Right.
It's just like anything in life is the goal is, winning the championship is fun for a day.
Right.
It's fun for the night or maybe a week, to win a championship. But you're going to remember that. You're going to remember that championship, and then it's going to go away, and that feeling of accomplishment is going to go away quickly.
Right.
What you are going to remember is all the hard work that it took to get there, all the practices, all the sacrifice, all of the things that you put into it to make winning that championship possible. So it's the same thing with, we've talked about it before, with success in. Nobody wants to hear about a story where somebody just gets plopped on the top of the mountain and their life was wonderful.
They want you to fall down a couple of times.
We want you to fall down. We want you to overcome adversity. I mean, you
break
never
a leg.
But the pride comes from knowing all the hard work that went into
put in
it.
Yep. I like that. I really like that. And I like the way that you put that. So in whatever place you are today, if you're that person that's saying, oh, I can't do this because of that, and I can't do this because of that, are you blooming where you are right now? Are you using everything that you have available to you to the best of your abilities? It's a different story if you've tried and tried and tried everything, and you're just saying, maybe I do need that extra capital because you've invested everything that you had. That's different, But if you're sitting on your own savings and saying, oh, but if I could just get somebody to, give me a little bit to start a business. So bloom where you're planted. Don't be stubborn. If you're stubborn, you're set in your ways, and it's hard to change. Those excuses won't go anywhere. And I think sometimes while excuses can appear harmless, every excuse can take you further and further away from reaching your full potential. So I guess, what are ways you can start taking charge and stop making those excuses? I was looking up on the World Wide Web, as one does. What are ways to stop making excuses? And I came up with 6 of them.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. It is. So maybe I'll just pick 3 or 4. You know what? I'll do the first 2 together, which is stop holding on to your past failures. But at the same time, take responsibility for those mistakes.
Thanks for listening to this episode of It Starts With Courage podcast with Kat and Jen. If you like this episode of the podcast, visit our website, iswcpodcast.com, for show notes and other cool things.